Was it requirements for you guys to like research the old game at all?
No.
Okay.
No, and I think it was better for it.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea. I didn't even know it was called Resident Evil. We just showed up to do it. We'd been cast in it. We were recording it. They showed me some of the backgrounds. I got to see some of the like set drawings and stuff, and I thought, well, this is going to be really cool. But I didn't even know I was the bad guy.
Oh, that's right.
Until I became the bad guy. I showed up for the session. I'm like, wait a minute, what? I thought I was the team leader. Am I not? They're like, no, you were the team leader, and now you're the villain. Which is great because I didn't tip my hand.
It's a great twist.
Didn't tip my hand because I didn't know. So that's why Wesker seems so, normal and straight throughout the whole thing until the sudden reveal is because it was all real. That was,
That's a great story.
Yeah.
How did you get the part?
I auditioned for it. How did you get the part?
Well, it's funny you should ask. Because I didn't actually audition for the part.
We've told this story before.
So
Can you tell?
My wife was working at a company called Sound Deluxe, which is where they did the sound design and the voiceover recording for our game. And I went to have lunch with her one day at work, and the casting person for our game was there, a woman named Carol Rougier. Fine voice actress in her own right.
Yes, she is.
And she knew that I had just started doing voiceover, mid-90s. No, this is, when did we do this?
Like 2000, 2001.
But I remember recording like in late 99 into 2000.
Might have been. Yeah.
Anyway.
You had started doing voiceover.
I started doing voiceover.
You're having lunch with Kate.
I'm having lunch with Kate, my wife, and Carol says, "You're doing voiceover now, right? We're looking for someone who sounds like the original guy from '96, because he had passed away. The voice actor, Ramsey Scott McCullough, had cancer and he died, so they needed someone to replace him." And they said, we're looking for someone who has the same vocal qualities as him. Would you like to jump in the booth and see if you can match him? So I turn that damn thing off. No, I'm kidding. Security. So anyway, she
asked you if you
asked me if I wanted to try it out, and I got in the booth, and I was able to sound like Ramsey. So they gave me the part, and that's how I became Chris Redfield.
Nice.
It's kind of a shame to see how far I've fallen since becoming Chris Redfield. And then,
have you guys actually watched or played the original? Or hey?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have.
Yeah, so just kind of what your gentleman's take on it. Hey, I'm here to how
much better it is. But the wonkiness of the original is part of the charm. Oh, yeah, you got to consider the era that it came from. And that was like the Wild West days of video game development, and they really hadn't started having big name actors doing video games and all that stuff. And when that began, that really changed the complexion of video games, having main big name actors and actresses doing the voiceover roles. But again, why am I suffering brain death every 5 minutes today? I guess I need to get better sleep. To your point, stuff happened. Wait, what?
You okay?
I'm not okay.
Okay.
I'm losing my brains. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
I was just wondering if you have any initial reaction to hey, this is actually...
Oh, the original game, right? Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was the Wild West, and that game was the thing that's special about that game is that it's the bridge between the old and the new. It is the changeover from the old style of video games to what we can now consider modern graphics. Even though it was pre-rendered backgrounds, I mean, it was such a different look and feel for video games. It really changed everything that came after them. And, everything about the game has a different feel, a different texture to it than the games that came before it. I personally wouldn't change a thing about the first game, because it really takes you back to that time. It takes you back to, actually having to put a connector from the box to the TV to make it work. That little thing, slidey thing that went on the TV. Maybe that was just me. I had a right, exactly. Right, that's what I'm talking about. Radio Shack, yes.
So wait, now are you talking about the original Resident Evil, not the remake?
The original.
Yes.
Right, the 96.
The top-down.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So.
I just want to shout out, a remake was definitely was like a industry gold standard for like, it mapped out like the remakes for, I thought like remake played before like all the remakes and stuff that way.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
The thing too about the remake, the one that we did, as opposed to the original, is the original, because it was a resource management adventure style game. The remake that we did was cinematic, and it really sort of set the tone for everything that came after it. It was the first real. It was scary.
It was
The original was not a scary game. It was fun, and it was kind of goofy, and it had lines like Jill Sandwich in it. But this one, this is the first game that I ever played that I had a real jump scare.
Yeah.
When those zombie Dobermans come through the freaking wall, it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck kind of game is this?
Yeah.
Nothing like that had ever happened before in a video game, and it was so
I had the same
groundbreaking.
response to the dog. So that is a very
Yeah.
legitimately scary jump scare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never experienced anything like that from a video game. In fact, before we did this game, I wasn't a gamer. I really wasn't a player at all. And but when the game came out, I had to hear what I sounded like, so I bought a GameCube and I listened to the thing and was hooked from that point on. Now I do nothing but play video games.
Did you guys ever share the sound booth together?
No.
We did not. It was all done solo.
Always. I didn't meet Peter until 2015.
Yeah.
We'd never actually met.
We'd never actually met. When they did the remaster, they had a big launch party, and somehow they reached out to me, I guess through my agent or whatever it was, and said, would you like to attend this launch party? It's at this sort of super hip club called Dirty Laundry
in Hollywood.
And I'm like, you know what? I never go out and do anything. Yes, I'm going to go. It'll be fun. So I showed up. Joe was the only other person from the game that was there. None of the people at the party knew anything about Resident Evil.
And certainly didn't know who we were.
They were all like, I guess there's like a service that you can pay that invites people that go to parties. So there are all these hip young people who have never played a video game in their lives. The set was cool. They had the whole place was decked out like the mansion, which was really nice.
They spent a lot of money.
So we went to the VIP lounge and sat back there, just the two of us, and started chatting and became really good friends.
We play D&D.
We play D&D together now. Yeah. So.
You know, you never use your Wesker voice in D&D. I think we need a character.
There you go. I'll have to come up with somebody.
And I'll do a Richard Aiken. You know, I'm also the voice of Richard Aiken. I don't know if you all know that. It's just Chris with a hernia. Don't go in there. There's a big snake. Rebecca, I need serum.
You and your serum.
You and your serum.
Japanese directors with you when we were in the sound booth?
Yeah.
New take.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually Carol Rougier, the casting person, was kind of the
She was our liaison.
right. So they would tell her what they wanted because they're broken English, and she would kind of suss it out, And fortunately, she's also an actor and knew how to tell us how to, she knew how to make that conversation work. So she was really the booth director for the
Shout out to Carol.
thing. Yeah, Carol.
To the cameras, because she's going to watch this someday.
And she might.
Is Chief Irons the superior of Wesker, or is Wesker the superior of Chief Irons?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's not something I've ever had to address before. I would guess Chief Irons would be, wouldn't he?
He's chief.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Wesker's technical, but
Captain.
what his
He's Captain Wesker.
That's right. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't Wesker bribing Irons? So he's basically bribing his superior?
Probably. Yeah.
Well,
Because he's evil.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, come
I
on.
wouldn't put it past him.
Because I asked though, because like, of course, like if we all know, like for Wesker, he's like he undercover and works for Umbrella directly, but like in his disguise, like is he the superior to Irons, or is Irons his superior, like in the disguise? Like,
Yeah, I honestly don't know, because again, in our version, that never got addressed because Chief Irons didn't even exist.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he didn't exist.
Yeah, so that was not everything. I never had to think about it before.
You guys have like a moment, specific moment to each of you that this is actually, that you realize that, oh, this work is actually kind of a big deal, like particularly resonating with that.
Yeah, I know exactly when that I had that revelation, because I didn't know anything about the game. They gave me one of the reasons I started doing games is because they would give me a free copy. So I got the free copy.
You got a free copy?
Yeah.
I never got a free copy.
Well, you didn't ask for one. And it was the GameCube with the 2 discs, and I'm like, I don't have a GameCube. So I borrowed one from a friend of mine, and I put it in, and I started to play, and I was watching just the whole opening sequence, and I was like, holy crap. This is, I had been playing like Leisure Suit Larry or, Escape from Monkey Island and those kinds of games. And, just first of all, the animation, the realistic computer animation, that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. Mm-hmm. And it blew my mind. I'm like, this is beautiful. What an absolutely amazingly rendered game. The backgrounds were cool. Everything was nice and clean. It was just amazing. It was a wonderful experience to see this whole, change in dynamic of everything. Right. And then I started playing, and I hated the GameCube controller. Oh my God, I couldn't do anything. I'm like, no, pick up open the, and that got a little frustrating. And then of course, like I'd said, the Dobermans coming through the window is just, and that's when I realized this is going to change everything. I mean, it really did. And looking back on it, because I've had this conversation with Joe. As a kid, and we're old, hearing a Beatles song for the first time.
Right.
And what people don't know now is that every time they put out a new song, it changed the way all popular music was done. Because nobody had done it before. And you listen to it now, it's like, okay, that's kind of cute. That's maybe a little bit, kind of corny. No, it was
time it had been done.
Groundbreaking.
Right.
And that was the revelation I had the first time I played the game. I was like, this is absolutely groundbreaking. Mm-hmm. And even with when they reskinned it, when they did the
update,
what do you call it?
The reissue.
The remaster, thank you. Suddenly the word escaped me.
That never happens to me.
It didn't really change that for me. You can still go back and look at the original, and it still looks good. I mean, it really does. It's still very playable if you don't play it on a GameCube. And yeah, so I mean, that was the moment for me when I realized this is huge. And then I never heard from them again. So
yeah, I was very disappointed that I wasn't called back. I never
well,
really.
You know why?
Well, because they didn't want to pay.
They went non-union.
Non-union.
They went to Canada because they didn't want to pay union actors. Which, okay, that's the
not
business
entirely
decision.
their fault, because there was a lot of back and forth between the union, Screen Actors Guild, and non-union companies for. This is really weird. I may have to see my doctor after
Yeah.
this.
There had been an effort. Video games were not originally covered by the Screen Actors Guild.
Right, and they didn't want to pay residuals.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pushback about that, and they we still, you don't get residuals for video games. That was an aspect of the contracts that was a giveaway to the video game industry by producers. By the Screen
union.
Actors Guild, the union.
In order to get the work covered.
Right. And so they gave up that on the promise that once the video game industry was able to figure out how to do residuals, that they would do it. But they never did. And now it's gotten to the point where they're like, no, we're not going to go back and honor what we said we would do, because it's business and that's how business works.
Well, we can get
Do
a
I
whole
sound better?
conversation about the strike and everything that's been going on for that,
Yeah.
too.
They-
But we
they're
won't,
still
'cause
pushing
we're here
for
to
it.
talk about Resident Evil.
Right. Sorry?
I was saying, well, I'm curious about how rate readings factor into video games. But I'm-
Yeah, there's no residuals.
Stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It's,
can tell the difference.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're a big star and you do a video game, you might get a piece of the back end or something. There might be some kind of a deal where, because I'm sure, if a Brad Pitt type
Yeah.
was to do a video game, I mean, like Keanu Reeves did Cyberpunk, yeah. So, there's probably
Yeah,
some
they give them a
special.
big wad of cash up front.
Yeah, probably that's how they
So-
work it. Probably a buyout situation, but.
In regards to how, kind of things escalate from a simple quarantine outbreak into a full city devastation, nuclear strike, into different sections of it. How do you envision the series continuing going forward after the events of Resident Evil 8, where we get the end of Ethan Winter's story and even Rose's DLC? Resident Evil 9 got announced.
Well, that's a good question for the developers.
Yeah.
I really have no involvement in story, in the continuation of the story. I'm excited by 9, and I really enjoyed Village. It's the game that my favorite game is 4, but Village is the game that I've played the most. 4 is just a perfect game. It's just awesome. Plus, Leon is just adorable.
Perhaps you didn't go with 5, considering your character escalates into a boulder punch.
Yeah, but that's not my character. That's not. I've always said that. I have always said that I don't think that that's the direction that Chris should ever have gone in, because
Well,
you want. Look at it this way: if you're in a house full of zombies, what's more interesting to watch? An average guy with average, physical abilities, trying to survive in that environment, or a guy who can punch boulders and has every gun in the world that can just go through and blast? Do you want to? What's more interesting to watch?
I think they were going for more of a cinematic finale, because obviously, there's only...
Hey, excuse me, the show's up here. These people, where do they come from?
no, I think you're right about that. But I also think, and I feel the same way about the subsequent iterations of Wesker. Because I played it pretty straight, and then Richard Waugh took over, and suddenly he was British. And then DC Douglas took over, and suddenly he was sort of British and completely insane. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was like, okay, it's not the same character anymore.
Yeah,
It's a-
and the key is in the name of the genre is survival horror. It's about surviving. Who's going to survive? Who's a more interesting story to watch?
But it also
Someone who has
traversed-
to fight for it, or
It traversed a timeline in video game production and development where the first-person shooter and the adventure game became king.
Right.
And so they had to try and adapt to that. And I think that's what changed the franchise into less of a survival horror and more into just a straight up kind of action combat series of games. But I think that's also another reason why you were talking about the nuclear strike and the whole city. And where do you go? You have to keep building on it. So they had to, well, what's bigger than an entire city of plague-ridden zombie people? Oh, I know. We could nuke it. So you've got to keep trying to up the ante a little bit. And by the time you get to like 7, 8, and 9, where can you go from up?
Yeah.
So it to me, and I love the game. I love the original. I kind of fell off after probably 2 or maybe 3. Played 0, liked it. Veronica was fun, but I kind of lost interest, and I'm sorry to say that. I know it seems like I'm apostate up here saying that. I'm more of an RPG guy anyway. So, but when it stopped being a survival horror game, that was like, well, that was the whole hook for me. And I don't know if that answers your question at all.
It's good to get your perspective on like how this.
And again, that's just my perspective. I'm not the guy making the games. I'm not the guy playing the games. So, anyway.
I'm curious though. Why do you ask that question?
Just because I wanted to have an introspective of what your perception of like how this thing has escalated over the years. Like this is a 35-year-old franchise that still like is putting out production to this day with like, different types of media sources. So, as in regards to like what your potential involvement or just overall review / critique of how things kind of like transition from your place in the video game industry, like redoing the game, the first one itself, into like how things can kind of transition, or if there's like maybe like things to look forward to. Like I know there's probably NDAs that you undersigned to the disclosure for any of this kind of thing, but potential like cameos or Easter egg references.
I would love to come back. I'd love to be in the series again. And I have an idea for a Resident Evil storyline that I think would be interesting.
Let's hear it.
Chris and Jill get married and have kids. Okay? This is years later. Chris and Jill are now retired. The kids are now working for Stars. They get into a situation, they get in trouble. And Chris and Jill have to come out of retirement to go save them. I think that would be a great storyline. Start a fan thing and make that, get a hold of Capcom and make that happen.
You neglected to say how Wesker would fit into that, Joe.
Well, Wesker becomes the Funkle.
Oh, there you go.
And
I'm going to need to borrow that T-shirt.
He's got a Funkle T-shirt on right now. But let me ask you. Let me ask anybody in the audience. Where would you like to see the game go? I mean, to your point, what's the escalation that you want to see?
I know you guys mentioned you guys enjoy RPGs. Maybe like a fresh spin on a Resident Evil RPG series might be lit. I don't know.
I think that's legit. Given those characters, could certainly work.
Mm-hmm. There was one sort of similar to this, like not exactly an RPG, but like 'cause you know how like in for some Resident Evil games, the villains could be like otherworldly and all that. Saying there's one where it's saying where it seems like they woke up in a fantasy world, but of course something is off, and then Umbrella's involved, of course.
Right. Yeah. That's always an option. If Umbrella came out with some sort of mass hypnosis machine or something to make the world believe it never happened.
I've been enjoying the return to like straight up survival horror we got with 7 and 8.
I agree.
Put it in a small setting, make them helpless again. I'm sorry, Chris Redfield does not need to punch boulders.
No, he does not.
As much as I like to joke about it, I really joke about it with my friends all the time.
I wish I was that buff.
I am now
But
part of the Isekai Chris Redfield into a fantasy world. I'm joining that too. That would be hilarious.
that's
That would be really
have Chris. The game opens up with Chris waking up in bed. It was all a dream.
fairy like what Griselda song.
That they did in Breaking Bad from out in the middle.
Right, exactly. That's been used a couple of times. It's
The Bob Hope or Bob Newhart show.
that's right,
Yeah.
at the end of Bob Newhart. That's
The Heisenberg boss fight, he references the boulder punching as well. Like, there's no
Right,
way to
yeah.
do that, but
Yeah.
somehow he does it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Boulder punching.
That they need a baby. Like, that Rose is the plot device for that entire game. It's just so unorthodox and just like, I get it, they're also kind of trying to go with a little bit of the body horror that comes along with it, putting the pieces in flasks.
I kind of enjoyed that aspect of body horror.
Well, now it's like, okay, it kind of transitions into a bit of an RPG element because it's now like collect the pieces, put it together, and you get the super baby.
Right, yeah, exactly. Super baby.
That's such a convoluted premise. Like, you need to dissect the baby, put them in flasks, have your minions guard it, and then put it back together so that you can get your daughter back, and it didn't work.
It's a bit of a stretch. Yeah.
Very.
But
Punching a boulder to death.
that's a
But
good
as far
point.
as like them trying to transition back from the Hollywood cinematic fight sequencing into like another aspect of a survival horror mixed in with like a bit more different, because the zombie genre, as much as it's their bread and butter, can get played out. So then they had to introduce lichens for some reason. 'cause
Right.
it's like
I hate the lichens. I hate
Yeah.
them.
Oh my God, I just had a brilliant idea. What was the one thing they did with every animation franchise in the late 80s, early 90s? Resident Evil babies. And have like little toddler Wesker and baby
Yes.
Chris and baby Jill.
Oh my God. Call Capcom.
That would be
Call.
lit.
Resident Evil kids.
It's like Tiny Toons, but
the
you
name
know.
of the daycare is Napcom.
There you go.
Napcom. Nice. Well done.
For the spin-off, yeah. How would Ethan be portrayed in that one if he was in?
It, uh,
Covered in a cradle the whole time.
Yeah, probably.
yeah.
Be
Yeah.
from his
Security
perspective
blanket.
the entire time.
The Underoos Corporation.
Security blanket, over his face, security blanket.
Linus the King.
Just imagine a little baby merchant from Resident Evil 4 playing a lion.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leon's got a pacifier in his mouth the whole time.
What are you selling? I got some good stuff, stranger.
What was your guys' like favorite part of recording voice lines in the game?
I know what mine is always doing the impact sounds. So getting hit, falling off a building, whatever those, all those sounds are, it's just a lot of fun to do. It's very cathartic too, by the way. If you're ever, having a bad day, just go out and pretend you're being beat up by a monster and really just chills you out, calms you down.
Sorry, everybody. My wife was texting me, and I'm trying to tell her I'm in a panel right now. So,
And if you knew his wife,
yeah,
she is a spark plug.
you don't ignore the text.
Do
You
not
just-
ignore the text. What was the question?
Favorite part of recording Resident Evil? I think a lot of it was some of the dialogue was fun. It was translated into English by Japanese people who learned English. So some of it didn't quite scan, and we would have discussions. The director had flown out from Japan, and so we would go back and forth about, I don't think this really means what you think it means, and
Yeah, there could be alternate. What's the word? I just suffered brain death.
yeah, no, there could be
In front of
like
the
more than
audience.
one meaning to some of the things. Like when I yell premature, and I said, I think it would be better if he said like, no, it's not ready. He's like, no, premature is good. Okay, so that was a lot of fun.
We interviewed one of the guys from Capcom that did the localization. If you're unfamiliar with the term localization, you make a video game and you do the voices in one language, and then you can localize it to whatever languages you want it to be in, which requires someone to come in and re-record the lines, and then you have to match them up to the lip movements and all that stuff. What was my point?
that you talked to.
Someone from Capcom.
Oh, right. So we interviewed the guy that did the localization for this game. And he said it was definitely an issue. So localization is always a fun thing to do. And it doesn't always work, as we know.
What was your favorite line to record and do?
Wesker, you've gone senile!
Yeah. And I think mine was, and you won't really hear it unless you're playing as Jill, and it's something you overhear through the wall, and there's a whole exchange between Wesker and Barry.
Oh, that's right.
Where Wesker is explaining in detail to Barry how he's blackmailing Barry.
Right.
And I had a great line. This is another one of those issues where I had a little chat with the director about it. My favorite line from the whole game is, "Don't be a hard dog to keep under the porch, Barry." That's right. And I'm like, that doesn't really mean anything. He's like, no, it's a very common American phrase. And I'm like, it's really not.
Which part of America is that a common phrase in? Because not the ones
And it wasn't until, like, I don't know, 15, 18 years later, I saw an interview with Hillary Clinton from the 90s talking about Bill Clinton. And she said, well, he's a hard dog to keep on the porch, which means he likes to go and run around. And I'm like, that has to be where they heard that and what they thought that meant. But they decided to put him under the porch instead. So
hard dog to keep under the porch.
Yeah.
It's also where we buried Grandpa, but we don't like to talk about that.
Favorite scene or zombie variant?
Well, Crimson Head for me, definitely.
Yeah, Crimson Head.
Those are, I hate those guys.
George Trevor coming out of the coffin.
Wait, what?
George Trevor, the dad of Lisa Trevor.
Of course, right.
The first Crimson Head that kind of gets officially introduced.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The guy who designed all the stupid death traps in the mansion.
Right. Right, George Trevor. Everyone's favorite architect. I can't think of any other. I always liked that vampire character that was down in the, that first thing that you get the jade arrowhead and you put it in the thing and you go downstairs and there's the 4 masks and then it unleashes that guy from the coffin.
That's George Trevor.
That's George Trevor. I always liked him. He's a cool character.
Yeah.
If you guys were able to reprise your roles, would you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, Wesker was great. Wesker was a lot of fun. And now that now that his character has been stretched and bent and warped into all these really kind of weird permutations, it might be fun to be like an over the top, finger waggling kind of villain.
Sadler.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Exactly. Sadler.
Or like DC Douglas's version of Wesker.
Yeah.
DC got to have the most fun. He actually called me before he auditioned for it. They had sent him 2 sound clips, and one was Richard and one was me. And I've known him for a long time. And he called me up. He's like, "Hey, listen, I just got an audition, and they sent me a sound clip, and it's you. Is it okay with you if I read for this?" And I was like, "What's it for?" He's like, "Well, it's Albert Wesker." I'm like, "Yeah, come on, man. It's a video game. Go ahead." Obviously, they decided they didn't want to use me. Do it. So he did, and he made a career out of it. So, I thought that was great. But it would be fun to play at that.
I like where they've gotten Chris to. He went through that weird period where he was doing a lot of steroids.
The Ubermensch. Yeah.
But I kind of like where they got him to now. In Village, I kind of like that Chris. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that would be a logical extrapolation of Chris's journey. He's now seen it all, done it all, and is extremely jaded and dark, and he realizes how, there's all this evil undercurrents and all these things, and so I kind of like where they've brought brought in.
They've brought in him.
I like where they've brought in Chris to. But I also like the way Jeff Shine plays him. So if they did do a complete reboot of our game, if they did a complete remake of it, I wouldn't be upset if they used Jeff to do the voiceover for it. I would love to do it myself, but I'm also 64, and Chris is supposed to be 27 in the game.
Yeah.
So
Looks 40.
yeah, that's kind of true.
No.
I was going to see if you guys have seen the movie reboot of Welcome to Raccoon City. You got any thoughts?
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
Also, did any of you watch the Resident Evil TV series? No? There's a couple of Easter eggs in there. And Lance Riddick plays Wesker.
That one. Lance Riddick.
If you are watching it, there's a whole series where they're in England and they go to this like enclosed city area. And they brought Courtney Taylor and me in to do ADR. And if you're listening to the announcement of Umbrella Corporation would like to remind you that after certain hours, so that's me doing that announcement as an Easter egg for everybody.
Are you aware? Is everybody aware of the fan films? Keeper's Diary.
We gotta go.
You see that one? Okay, we're all done.
us off.
Okay, we're done.
He's giving us the "you're done," or he's a Power Ranger. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much for
Thanks, everybody.
hanging out with us, everybody. Thank you.
Did we? You did. Okay. And if you haven't stopped by and said hi, we're over there.